1969. I know I wasn't born yet. Reese, was you born yet?
I probably wouldn't even thought of.
Chris, was you born yet?
Born yet.
None of us was born yet, but we're going to review the 154-pound state championship match from 1969. Now, you may recognize one of our guests here today so far. He's done his 2022 144-pound state championship video. If you would, introduce yourself.
I'm Reese Goss. I wrestled at Drunk Central.
And, of course, your video is above this one, several on the playlist, but you won the 144-pound state championship. And a gentleman that has not been on the channel yet, but he did win the state championship in 1991, 160 pounds. If you would, introduce yourself.
Chris Goss, won it at 160 pounds, 1991 at Sheldon Clark High School.
So we've got father and son state championship combination here, and we kind of decided on the 154-pound weight class, kind of split the middle, because, again, some of you guys have asked about the weight class. Let's go over them real quick. This is 1969. 95 pounds, 103 pounds, 112, 120, 127, 133, 138, 145, 154, 165, 175 in heavyweight. And according to George Turan, heavyweight was unlimited back then. So you could weigh, I guess, as much as you wanted to weigh. But before we get to the video, Chris, in 1991, you actually wrestled a wrestler from Seneca in the finals.
Yes.
You remember his name by chance?
His name was Colin Thompson.
And how did you win that match? What was the score?
Score was 10-0.
10-0. And when we get our hands, we do know there's video out there of Chris's match. When we get our hands on the video, of course, we're at Chris's beautiful house here today. Thank you for having me, by the way. But we're going to, of course, get with Chris, do his 1991 review. Until then, this will have to suffice. Reese, you wrestled, of course, this, as of this filming, this is June 2022. There's a big gap between 2022 wrestling and 1969 wrestling.
Yeah.
A big gap. Chris, there's a big gap between 2022 and 1991. Oh, yeah. And you, of course, you've been in coaching. You've coached. You was on the Sheldon Clark squads in the 90s and even Johnson Central whenever Reese was wrestling. Because I want you to guys give two different answers here. What do you see from your time wrestling in 91 as compared to this year when Reese won it? What do you think some of the biggest differences as far as how Kentucky wrestling has evolved?
I think technique has evolved. A lot of you got kids that wrestle nowadays. They know thousands of moves. It seems like back during my time, it was your basics. Mm-hmm. We kept it simple, and so I believe that the technique, even the conditioning, has evolved.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, Reese, you've seen some of the videos we've done, 94, 95, some of the other, from even back in the late 90s. What do you see as being the something that has evolved in your eyes that the wrestlers in 2022, I'm not going to say are better in, but maybe better than, I should say, but are more evolved from your era as opposed to like the 90s and early 2000s?
Yeah, we watched some of these videos earlier, and you can just tell that people back then were so much more physical. And, we might have some more technique on the old guys, but you could tell that they're a whole lot more physical. So
absolutely, it's not even close as far as. And that's what I tell everybody is for me the best era of Kentucky wrestling, and I think when Kentucky wrestling changed is from 2010 to 2019. Kentucky wrestling went through, I'm not going to say a revolution, but you had Mark Hall at Ralph in the state finals, ended up being NCAA champion. David Carr, Woodford County, won state championship, went on to be NCAA champion. You had all these. You had a mixture of. You had still had some strength, some old heads in the mat rooms. Then you had the newer, like one that sticks out to me is Jacarion Merritt from Christian County. Jacarion in 2019 was just an absolute 130 pounds. He was unbelievable. So you had like 2010, you can watch some absolute studs, maybe not the best technique, but then you shift to like Jacarion. That 2010 to 2019 span, to me, is when Kentucky wrestling really shifted. But we're going to watch 154-pound state championship. This is Dwight Williams from Seneca. He'll be in the red singlet versus Ray Crooker from Boone County. Now, we've already done the 95-pound, 103 and 112-pound state finals from 1969. We're trying to get different aspects, different views on the 1969 and how different wrestling has evolved. So I'm going to step up here to the computer, hit the space bar, and we're going to go. So we got the Seneca wrestler in the red singlet with the white tights, and the Boone County in the light blue tights with the top. Now, Chris, you didn't wear the full length singlets when you wrestled. From everybody that I've talked to, said these were just miserably hot. You can imagine the material in 1969. You see a lot of this, a lot of wrestlers on their knees. Not a whole lot of offense.
Not a lot of setups on your shot.
Yeah.
Is he wearing Converse?
I believe they very possibly are. Yeah. We're at
they were Chuck Taylor's.
Chuck Taylor's?
We're at Louisville Trinity Gym. We're on the Kentucky School for the Blind. Matt here. In case you are wondering, a lot of people have asked that about this 1969 year. If you know these gentlemen, if they're still with us, Dwight Williams of Seneca and Ray Crooker of Boone County, please reach out to them and show them this video. I'd love to meet with them if they're, like I said, still with us, or their family, send them this video. So not a whole lot of action, guys.
No, not a lot. Like I said earlier, no setting up the shots, a lot of wrestling on your knees.
And Chris, you can help us with this. When you wrestled, did you start on the referee lines in the center, or did you start on the 10-foot circle?
We started on the referee lines.
Okay. Because I know the 80s videos that I have, and this especially, the wrestlers start on the 10-foot circles.
Right.
And I just didn't know when it transitioned over.
So I got
nothing.
A little action there, a little out of bounds.
A little out of bounds action. A
lot of snapping the head from the knees.
A lot of snaps there. Can't get too much pressure.
You got him.
All right, now,
there.
See how he count? He, instead of wearing wristbands, he points.
Points, yeah.
And did they referees wear wristbands when you was in school,
yeah,
Chris?
Yeah, they wore them there. Guy's got the head in the armpit. Wrestle on bottom, right. Keeping his head down.
I think that was the end of the period.
Yeah. Somewhat of a switch.
Coach Matt would call that the West Virginia Weevil Wobble. That's what he calls it.
Yep. Oh, now he's able to get his escape.
Yeah, back on the
We're out of bounds. Now you can see we're starting again on the 10-foot circle.
This time right now you got them both standing.
It's kind of like when you start with freestyle and Greco.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was talking about earlier. You watch this about technique evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestlers now, shooting, fakes, in and out, moving. Just a good, setting up their shots.
Now, Reese, of course, your video's on the channel already, but what do you see about this? I don't know why it cuts in right here and says that. I don't know what the deal is. Your match went to overtime, high paced. You think you could go back in 1969 and take it all here?
Sure, I don't know. These guys look super strong, but I mean, you got some kids in my weight class that are super strong, but don't have the best technique, and I think that's helped me out a lot, and especially with what you said in overtime. Me and Gavin were both first-time wrestlers being in the state championship.
Mm-hmm.
And our adrenaline was rushing, and that kind of affected our what do you call it?
Style.
Yeah.
Now, another thing too about this is they're not wearing headgear. Headgear was optional, and Tony Harris, Bill Clarkson, and George Turan, all from Hopkinsville. We done their videos when we went down there for their marathon session, which was awesome. Tony Harris, who's still with Christian County Wrestling, said that even in the 70s, that high school had had a riding clock. If you chose top and you was able to ride your opponent out, or if he took bottom, he rode you out the whole period, you got an additional point.
Like riding time.
It was like riding time, but it didn't flip-flop.
Okay.
It was just a one-way. If you rode him out the whole 2 minutes, then you got an additional point, which is pretty, kind of interesting.
both of these wrestlers, their first moves on bottom is that switch.
Yeah. Now, me, I think, not taking anything away from these gentlemen, but I think Reese's class generation of wrestlers, I think they would dominate.
Oh yeah.
I really believe that. And like I said, it's not taking anything away from these guys. It's just, like I said earlier, the technique has evolved so much.
It has. And that's what I love being able, especially having this year, is just to let, guys that's come up through the ranks as former state champions to be able to watch it and get their opinion on it, just how different it is then as compared to what it is now or even when they wrestled. And that's something too on top. You very rarely see anybody try to run any offense. Very rarely do you try to see somebody work a turn.
Not that, I see him look like he's trying to work a one-on-one there.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to force a leg in, and I haven't even seen. Has he even tried to run a half yet?
He was in a position and he couldn't, or he didn't. But even on their feet, it's just hand fighting, controlling the wrist.
On the knees.
Yeah, there's a half dive.
Yeah, half.
In case you're wondering, North Hardin High School wins the team state title this year. We've actually reached out to some guys from North Hardin. Still kind of waiting to hear back if they'd be interested in watching a couple of their matches, because a couple of the gentlemen that win state championship are from North Hardin. Boone County we've done the review with Heath Chafin at 112 pounds, and so Boone County had a good team. Wrestling really hadn't, expanded here in 1969. I don't think there's any Lexington area schools that have anybody in the finals. It's all like Northern Kentucky, Louisville, and Fort Campbell has a couple. So the Seneca wrestler wins. It doesn't have the score, I'm sorry. So guys, we've watched the 1969 154-pound state championship. Got your opinion on it. We got a 1991 era and a 2022 era, and it's good, to hear their opinions on when they wrestled, the technique, everything that come with it, as opposed to what we just watched. Guys, any closing thoughts, anything about 1969 that the wrestling there that makes you, wow. In case you're wondering, we got another video up on the, who is this here? This is North Hardin and Campbell County wrestling. We're kind of watching it as we go, but anything that you've noticed or anything that you've seen, wrapping
You just
up?
look totally just the styles, compared to today. The styles, even their outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Reese even mentioned earlier, guy had Chuck Taylors on.
Chuck Taylors.
What weight class was this?
This is 165 pounds.
These guys are jacked.
You guys are big. And I'm not even sure if, wrestlers had to weigh in 1960, actual, go to a scale and weigh in, unless they just, the coach said, oh yeah, this is my 100 and whatever pound. Not that anybody would ever do that or anything. Come on.
See, that's what I was wondering, the weight certifying and everything.
I do not know. Tony didn't say, Bill Clarkson didn't say, and George didn't. George was heavyweight. George said he was unlimited. So I don't know if you have rule books from the 60s or 70s, or if you wrestled in, or you can say for certain, we had to weigh in. Whatever the case is, reach out to us. We'd love to know, because we love being able to celebrate our history and being able to have footage like this so it can be celebrated, and we know it's going to be used. It's in a safe place. It's not sitting around somewhere in an archive or just on somebody's shelf. It's actually being used so people can enjoy it who enjoy the sport of wrestling. Fellas, any closing thoughts?
No.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, be looking out for Reese this year wrestling for Kent State. I guess you'll go July, August?
I'll leave August 18th.
August 18th. We'll be sure to keep everybody posted on Reese's. We'll post the in Reese's his own state championship review video. We're going to have a link to his individual profile and the Kent State schedule. That way, if you're in the area or he's wrestling and you want to go watch him, you can. That's all we got from Casa de Goss here in beautiful Woodford County, Kentucky. If you guys have any video years that I don't have, please reach out. I'd love to get them. That way we can reach out to the family, reach out to whoever it may be, and be able to do their videos, because we just want to celebrate Kentucky wrestling. That's all we got from 1969. We'll see you guys on the mats.